What is it? Season 1, episode 5. Right, Steve? Are we that?
That's right. That's amazing. Episode 5 already. Yeah.
And our second guest. So, Steve, take it away. Second guest.
Okay. I'd like to welcome Jeff Gamache. Jeff is the athletic director at Trinity Western. I met Jeff when I was the interim athletic director at Briarcrest, and he was nice enough to help me understand the ins and outs of being an athletic director. And I was able to help him out with some business things. So we became friends, and we've been talking ever since. So the last couple of years, we got to know each other quite well, and I really enjoy his company. And I asked him if he would come on here. He said yes. So here we are.
Happy to be
Nice.
here. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, I guess if you didn't know before this, Jeff, our podcast is called Progress Over Perfection because it's all over mine and Steven's virtual background. So, I guess, what do you think, Steve? The first question we should go is when you hear progress over perfection, Jeff, what does that signify to you, or do you have any examples of what that could mean for you in your life?
Totally. I mean, I don't, I think way too often we can get bogged down in feeling like we have to have it perfect, and so we make no progress. I would say that as a person of faith. I think a lot of people, in terms of whether they choose to accept Christ into their life, feel like they have to be perfect before they get into that, and that's actually the complete opposite of the gospel message. So I would start there. My faith is super important to me, and so I think you see that time and time again throughout the Bible and even throughout my own life, where if you get caught in that trap, then you can kind of be in this doom loop of chasing perfection and never really making any progress. So I think progress always involves risk. I think progress involves, frankly, going backwards. If you look at just human life, if you have a kid who decides that they're just going to continue to crawl for their entire life because they don't want to risk standing up, hanging onto a table, falling down, scraping their knee, like they're never going to get to walking, they're never going to get to running. Yeah, I just think that progress inherently involves risk. It involves often going backwards, and it involves feeling uncomfortable. And that's kind of the crux of it. I know certainly when working with athletes, if you can get them to a place where they're willing to risk, where they're comfortable enough in their own skin and who God has created them to be in, I think for me, that's the real superpower for Christians, is understanding whose we are. And when we do understand that, that allows us to take on immeasurable risk because we're not in control of what we're doing. So yeah, as an athletic director, those are often the conversations we're having with our athletes, is like, what are your goals? And I think a big part of doing that is helping them understand that progress is only going to come when you risk, when you're willing to go backwards for a time. And I actually use a bit of a diagram. I don't know if either of you are familiar with this. I drew it out.
Nice.
We had a fancier
Oh,
thing.
I love our high-tech stuff on
That
progress
fits
over
in
perfection
perfectly.
is about high-tech. I love it.
There you go. So this is a whole series of S curves, right?
Okay.
And when you start anything, you actually, if any of you, well, both of you have been in business, you probably understand this feeling of like, man, I feel like I'm getting worse at something before I get better, and then gradually that changes, and you start to improve, and you're going, but that improvement just doesn't go on forever. And at some point, you almost start to stagnate, or you need to make the strategic leap over onto this next venture that God has for you. And that strategic leap, if you can time that just as the S is starting to flatten out and you jump into this new S, well, look at what's happening. You're actually going to go down a little bit. And that's typically, again, what happens when you start any new skill. You'll see it in sport all the time, right? Where you try something new and I don't know if this feels any better. I think Tiger Woods, how many times did he change his swing, right? Because he's kind of chasing that, right? And it doesn't go well. And you're in the simulator and you're doing all these things, and then you start to progress and that. So that's kind of, I think, a significant part of when I hear progress over perfection. I think it is a really wise saying.
If you
We
have
might.
something, a JPEG or something like that, please email it because I'll see if we can attach it I love it.
Sounds
I
good.
love that.
Yeah, might be our new logo. I like it.
Yeah.
So Jeff, tell us a little bit about you. Like you're living in Langley or Abbotsford, and you're out in the west, and a little about you and what you do when you're not on being interviewed on podcasts, and about your family, or just a little bit about you yourself.
Sure. Yeah, well, I'm staring right now at a Montreal Canadiens jersey, so I should start there. Big Montreal Canadiens fan.
That's
So for
him. That's Allan. That's Allan. That's Allan. Oh no,
well, see, I
boo.
knew this guy was a good guy to begin with, right there. So, yeah, I mean, with a name like Gamache, I think a lot of people anticipate that I must have grown up in Quebec or something like that, but I didn't. I grew up on the prairies, but there was only two hockey teams at the time. The Leafs and the Canadiens, and the Leafs were terrible in the early 70s when I was first gaining consciousness of professional sport and hockey, and Montreal was amazing and winning all kinds of cups. There we go. Well done, Allan. And Guy Lafleur was my hero. So if I were to turn my camera around, you would see 3 number 10s across the basement, and those number 10s represent my jersey. I played volleyball at Trinity Western, so I was number 10, and my son played volleyball at Trinity. He was number 10, and my daughter played volleyball at Trinity, and she was number 10. So yeah, people
I
ask
was number 10 in soccer.
There you
when I was
go.
a kid.
And believe it or not, I wore number 10 in college. So we're all tens.
We're all
So,
10s.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Now I
sports
have to
always been a big part
interject
of my life.
because you brought up one of my best memories with my dad. So I know we have a guest, but I have to share this. My dad, and when we were growing up, we had to bike and eat mosquitoes to go to our games and practices because not like our kids nowadays who get driven and chauffeured all over the place. We had to actually get to our practices on our own.
Absolutely.
And one time it was a playoff game, and let's see, I can remember. Thank you for bringing this up. My dad got there a little late, and I think we were just about to go to overtime, and like people were chanting "gee gee gee gee," and it was like and my dad's like, "Who the heck are they talking? Like, what's going on?" And then he found out they were cheering me on. Like I was in a playoff game, I was going for a hat trick, and I actually got my name in the newspaper, and my dad kept that little clipping. It was probably one of my best games of soccer when I was a kid, and my dad came in a little late and didn't know why people were chanting "gee gee gee" when he was
Yeah.
walking in.
He's a great guy. I got to meet him personally one time, and he was absolute gentleman. Had all the time of the day for you. So
Yes.
yeah, sports always been a big part of my life. And so did I, have aspirations like most Canadian boys of going to the NHL? For sure. God had other plans for me, and I got into the world of teaching eventually after being at Trinity. Taught for 7 years, and then was a principal for 14 years, and then got the call to see if I would be interested in coming back to Trinity to be the athletic director there, and kind of hummed and hawed a little bit. I'd assumed I'd maybe go back to Trinity as a professor. I hadn't really had aspirations of being the athletic director, but once I understood that being an athletic director included a lot of the skill set that I had gleaned over time, and I had always had a huge passion for faith and sport, it seemed like a good fit. So they picked me, and I've been there 9 years now. Love it. It's like I said, I think God has been preparing me for this work for a while now. So I have 3 kids. Married Jennifer. She's from Ontario, so I do have some good Ontario blood in me. And we've had 3 kids here together. Our oldest, Caden, now has his own kid and another one on the way. So I am a grandpa. They call me Pops. And I still enjoy being active. I play on the softball team with all my kids. Our entire infield is Gamaches at times. And still play hockey, still play volleyball, still golf, do as many things as I possibly can to stay active. Love reading, love podcasts. So yeah, it's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. So you're surrounded by kids like in your family and I guess in your work. And one of the big things I know Steve and I talk about in our conversations is it's a different world out there, especially with social media and the I guess the pressure to perform. What advice would you give to young people that are going through that you probably even experienced coaching?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm happy to see that just yesterday some legislation was passed to perhaps make social media much more inaccessible for younger people. I think that is a wise thing. I see, honestly, my kids' generation, so we're talking kind of mid to late 20s generation, a bit of a revolt against social media. They don't have it. They don't want it. They don't want their kids to have to go into it. So yeah, I think it's an interesting thing where there's been a bit of a change and an understanding really of what the dangers of social media are, and people trying to fight back against that. Yeah, identity is a core piece to anybody's health and well-being, and so understanding who you are and who you were created to be are fundamental, honestly. So I think the more conversations you can have with young people on those topics, the better. And they're often very rich conversations. And when you can bring people to an understanding that people's worth is not in what they do, it's not in how they perform, then that's massive.
You've got remind me, 15, 16, 17 coaches plus like 400 student athletes roughly. Is that about, am I
Yep.
close or?
Yep, you're close.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So as you're very clear at Trinity on your mission and your core values. And I think that you guys of even in businesses I've seen, and certainly, not for profits, like you guys to me have almost clearer than anybody I've ever seen. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, it certainly wasn't my brainchild. When I attended Trinity as an athlete, I think the ethos of the place was such that you didn't want to just see excellence show up in your sport. You wanted to be a great student, so it was important to take your studies seriously. It was important to be a leader, and so being a servant leader was a huge learning piece for me while I was at Trinity. And they really emphasized that being a smaller campus, like I always said, you don't come to Trinity because the microscopes and the neutron accelerators are somehow so much better than at UBC. You come because the opportunity to rub shoulders with professors and with leaders at the university is immense because it's just smaller. They know you by name. They take you to their home. They have you for Thanksgiving dinner, and they just lean into you. And even yesterday, I was golfing with a gentleman who hadn't gone to Trinity, but his daughter did, and she was part of the Laurentian Leadership Institute that happens in Ottawa, got connected to a number of MPs, has had an amazing experience, and has gotten just her perfect job through those connections, right? So that's always what has been in the DNA of Trinity. And around when we made the leap from playing in the college league to the university league, we coined something called the complete champion approach. So the complete champion approach just kind of codifies these 5 areas of excellence. So we say, yes, we're a Christian institution. We're going to be unique. So we would like to see you on this journey spiritually, and we want to move you along that journey. We have people all over the spectrum. Some have zero background with any kind of piece of faith. And we want to see you explore that and lean into it and push into it and see where that takes you, all the way to people who probably the number one reason they came to Trinity is that they wanted to combine their faith and sport. So excellence spiritually, it's an academic institution. So excellence in your academic journey. You are an athlete, so excellence within your sport. Then the servant leadership piece. So we wanted to see leadership excellence happen and opportunity be given. And then that translates into personal excellence, where you're not someone who is building drama on the team. You're not someone who is, sucking life away from the team. You're giving life into the team. You're being a fantastic teammate, which then translates, as we all know, into business and teaching, nursing, doctoring, lawyering, whatever you're going to go into eventually. Those skills are kind of really honed in the world of athletics and then shared across that. So yeah, that complete champion approach frames everything that we want to be about. And without a doubt, the teams that embrace that the most are the teams that just, wow, look at that. They so happen to be the ones that are also winning national championships. So
It's I love this, how this all ties in. Like my daughter started in criminology at U Ottawa, and she kind of moving to a track that I feel is better for her now. Is she wants to become a French immersion teacher, and she's going to go to teachers college part soon. And my son just finished his third year in business and Tefler at U Ottawa, and I was just saying, like, you a little bit like what you said. So if you can, from your perspective, I told him, like, yeah, academics are great, definitely work on that, but just work on relationships while you're there, whether it's the TA, whether it's your fellow students, whether it's somebody, a janitor walking, they're like, how do you, like, what would define success for the young people today? Like, just molding all this together. What if there was one or two things that they can focus on to round all that together and bring it together? What would you say, Jeff? 'Cause
Yeah, I
anyway,
mean, I think human relationships are at the base of everything, right? So the more that you're able to invest into human relationship, which goes back to why you don't want to be on social media all the time, because I remember one of the very first times as a middle school principal, a student walked into my office and we were dealing, it was probably Facebook back in that time. It was probably close to 20 years ago now. And I remember the question, I asked something about her friends. And she goes, like, my real friends or my friends on Facebook? And it was like so enlightening to me of like, okay, like they, as a grade 7 student, probably they were, there was this delineation between these are my real friends and these are like friends. They're my friends on Facebook, but they're almost not a real friend. And so I think the more that we can have people invest in real human relationship, again, as AI starts coming, that's going to be another huge piece of the conversation, right? Like this is a thing. There's no consciousness behind this. So yeah, the more that you invest in real relationship, the more that you invest in human beings and giving value to other human beings, I don't know that people so much care what grade you got or what award you won. When they see that you really care about them genuinely, truly as a human being, then I think you're going to get way further in life than just being about the more superficial things.
So shameless plug for those listening here. If you go back to episode 1, Stephen and I talk about people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So just shameless plug for you guys to move back to check episode 1 if you haven't watched it. So thank you.
There you go. Full circle.
Yeah.
So I guess before we wrap up, we're trying to keep these under 20 minutes. Is there any last advice you would have for maybe not so much for the young people, maybe for the older, maybe for the guys like, well, I'm older than you guys, but you guys are close in age. You guys are more peers. So, someone that's on the back nine of life, not the front nine, as we deal with young people, as we try to, you just got so much exposure with coaches and through coaches to all these, 400 athletes and your kids and your grandkids. So, you're pretty much, should be able to teach a master or PhD level class and all that stuff. So give me like one or two pieces of advice for parents or even grandparents as they look at their younger kids and grandkids in today's world, what they should really do.
I think you should not underestimate how much value you have. So I'll use an example. One of the things that I'm most thankful for within Spartan Athletics is our chaplaincy program. So I wanted these chaplains to invest into students' lives so that the whole spiritual side of things we were investing time and energy into that in the same way we were investing time, money, and energy into all the other areas of the complete champion approach. So at first it was one chaplain, then it was two, and then it was quickly apparent, like, I need a chaplain, at least one chaplain on every single one of our teams. And I had no clue how that was going to happen. It was kind of like a jar of oil moment from the Bible where it's like, I don't know how this is going to happen, but God in his graciousness just showed there is a whole bunch of people who are newly retired, who maybe thought that golfing, fishing, and all these other things were going to kind of satisfy them in their semi-retirement years. But they have been built into by a whole bunch of people. They have an incredible value, incredible skill set. And these athletes, I initially thought I probably need to find a bunch of 27-somethings to be able to relate to these people, and that's who the chaplain should be. And over time, it's become very, very clear that actually, more typically, and there's not a hard and fast rule with this, but more typically, they're actually looking for someone who's 50 plus and has done a bit of life and has has some of the scars and all the things that bring value into people's lives. And they want to have authentic, real conversation with those people. And when those people who have had that life experience show the care and compassion and willingness to have conversations and just listen, my goodness, there is such richness there. So I just would really say, hey, if you're the kind of person that wants to be used by the Lord in this season of your life, I think it's a very rich season. It should not be, I think I've heard it, it's not retiring, it's retreading. So you put a different tire on and let's go. God's got a whole bunch of stuff still for you, and let's get after it.
I love that.
I love that. And Steve, this, and we can't disclose because we're really working on it. It's so crazy how we did not plan this or whatever. And the last question you answered with chaplaincy, because Steve and I are working on a chaplain for some pretty big sports teams in the Toronto area to join our podcast because we run into them all the time. So this is going to be a great video to show him that he would be great to be next in line. So everybody watching us, DM us, subscribe, because I think there's a chaplain that a lot of people know out there that could be joining. We're praying and we're working on it. So, but we were not going to disclose anything. But I love how we didn't plan this, and it's a great segue to what might be coming up next. Like I just love how God works. That's just amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you, Jeff, so much for taking time, and I'm excited for what you have ahead of you. And I know you got a busy summer getting ready for the fall season, but enjoy the summer, a little bit of time off, and hopefully we can, Allan likes to invite people back because he's always got more questions. So we're trying to keep these short. So we'll have part two when we can, when you get
part two will be focused on the Habs.
That's right. Yeah. The winning tradition that is being brought back through the Habs. Love it. I can see an entire podcast on this.
I will tell you one story before we shut off about the Habs. So I lost in my office a number of years ago. There was, I don't remember the details, but Leafs were playing the Habs, and there was this guy from Quebec that was one of our VPs of purchasing, and he was a huge Habs fan. So somehow we had a bet that the loser had to wear a jersey. So if the Leafs won, if the Habs beat the Leafs, I had to wear a Habs jersey. So I thought he'd forget about it, and he shows up at the office with a Habs jersey with a number on the back, my name on the back, and he made me go to a game at the Bell Center wearing that Habs jersey the whole night. So what I did with that jersey, I was going to throw it away. I thought, you know what I do? I kept it, and every time at the office we had an ugly sweater day, I wore my Habs jersey. So I still keep it in my closet in case I get invited to an ugly sweater party. And they go, "What are you wearing that jersey for? Isn't it pretty obvious?" So, anyways, that's my Habs story for you guys. So thanks, Jeff. We appreciate you taking time, and
great to meet you, Allan.
God bless you.
Yeah, no problem. As we wrap it up, I just invite, we ask at the end, if there's anything that touches you and you feel you might need a little help, remember, Stephen has some great contacts in the coaching business. If we can help you in your journey along the way, whether you're young, like we talked about, or a grandpa or great grandpa, please send us a message. That's our heart of why we're doing this, is we want to make a difference in people's lives. And we might not have the answers, but we might be able to connect with somebody. So please send us a message. Have a great one, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.